friends, you and I already got together and drove the stunning 2018 Lexus LS500, one with a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6. Now it's stablemate, also with a 3.5 V6, but not one, two electric motors strapped to, get this, a real transmission in a hybrid that comes from Toyota. Now, before we get too far down the road in driving the hybrid version of the LS500, we need to get to that nagging problem of packaging two propulsion systems in one car. Now, we've discussed this in theory for the past 8 years, how when you add a second propulsion system, it has a negative impact on the driving dynamics. However, here, the Toyota engineers, keep in mind, Toyota's been making hybrids for since 1997, I think, in Japan. So we're talking over 20 years of experience. They decided we've got the components of a second propulsion system, but we can focus on changes to the battery. So the logic wasn't just making the battery lighter, it was making the packaging of the battery smaller. So what they did is they took the ECU of the battery, as well as other management functions of the battery, took it out of the battery pack, separated it out, thus made the battery pack 20% smaller than those components smaller themselves, and overall the packaging now smaller, and guess what? Lighter. Okay, so the biggest thing we need to unpack is the pulling power, or in this case the pulling power and the pushing power, because this one is fitted with the all-wheel drive system. So let's slow down here a little bit. And okay, we're down to a decent speed, put our foot into it. It sounds a little bit like a hybrid there, but the thing is, it actually goes, and it goes pretty well. Now, what's important here is there are multiple dynamic settings which we covered in the LS500 twin turbo episode. This one also has the same settings, even though it's a hybrid, and we are doing this right now in the normal mode. And what's interesting is you do feel that it's got the pulling power, pushing power of a standard V8. Now let's go into sport, okay? Put our foot into it coming around this turn, and all of a sudden it doesn't sound like a hybrid anymore. Actually, let's slow down. It's astounding to me how well this hybrid system works in such a large vehicle, almost 5,000 pounds, which we covered in the tech review. Now let's come around this turn here. Please don't try this at home. There's not a huge difference between Sport and Sport Plus, but it begs the question, the hybrid now in contention. If you are a fan of the Toyota Hybrid Synergy drive system, I suggest you take a seat, because I have some shocking news for you. Generally, when folks buy these types of cars, hybrids especially from Toyota, it is fitted with anything you want as long as it's a CVT. The shocking news is this. Yes, it has a CVT, but it also has a real transmission. That's good for us car guys and gals. Follow me on this one for a minute, because there's a lot going on. 3.5 V6 here. The first electric motor here. Planetary gear set here. Second electric motor here. And then, wait for it, ready? 4-speed automatic here. But this is the catch. It's not a 4-speed automatic, really. What they're trying to do is mimic the 10-speed automatic in the twin turbo, but there's only 4 gears, so how do they do it? Well, the first gear can mimic the first 3 gears of the 10-speed automatic. The second gear mimics the second 3 gears of a 10-speed automatic. And then that third gear, guess what? Mimics the next 3 gears. And then the fourth gear, it does what a gear should do and only do what one gear should do, and that's the 10th gear, or mimic the 10th gear. I believe that's it. Okay, so let's back down to normal and unpack the impact of grafting a second propulsion system on a large luxury vehicle like this. And second, and I would argue more important, the fact that this is a hybrid system coming from Toyota Group with a real geared transmission. So let's put our foot into it going around a turn that says slow, brake, 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 brake. This is a hybrid, people, and notice there's a little bit of bite to it. That's the big thing that you notice immediately when you get into this thing. And I drove it from around the Moscone Center this morning all the way up to Skywalker Ranch. And I was blown away by that. The basic setting in a luxury hybrid, it's got a little bit, there's a heaviness to the steering and the suspension setting in the most basic setting. Yeah, we can go back down to comfort here, or even eco. But look at this. I mean, it's not an AMG, no doubt about it. Now as it gets a bit tighter, let's go up to Sport Plus mode. Go back to having some fun, believe it or not, with a Lexus hybrid, and move on to that second more important piece, and that's the use of real gears. And this, I'm not going to mince words, it just transforms the usability of this thing. It's to the point where you feel this is not an economical choice or the boring choice. Like my aunt, she's like almost 80 years old. She drives a Lexus because it's comfortable. This isn't the choice that she would pick because it's comfortable. She'd get in this thing and say, oh, it's a little too sporty for me. The hybrid. Suga-san, the chief designer of this vehicle, he spent a lot of time really philosophizing over what is the next LS500, or whatever they were going to call it. And he knew he didn't want it to be another copy of a German car. And you see it in all the detailing and interior. And I would argue this is the most successful change in this car, is this interior. Like, look at the stunning, this glass detailing underneath this gloss panel here. This is something, one of the choices you can put here. But then it's another piece of texture here. It's not just texture, but the way this is folded here. Oh my God, it's one of the nicest details I've seen in a long time. And then of course, the geek in me has got to say, they did harken back to a little LFA here in an LS. Usually the hybrid, you and I, we're car guys and gals, we kind of scoff at this stuff, no matter how good they make it. But now it's at a point where I'd actually have to stop, scratch my head and say, I would seriously consider the hybrid version of this, because it's kind of like, you know how sometimes you get all the grief and you get all the gravy when you're dating a girl or you're getting married? Here, there isn't that much grief to get the gravy of higher fuel economy, and it retains the stuff we liked about the LS500, granted not its sharpness. So I'm going to turn this around to you guys and leave you with a question. Now that you know this about the hybrid version, everything we discussed, would you be open to the hybrid version of this over the twin turbo? Why or why not? And most importantly, what car do you currently drive? And I'm looking for people who drive these kind of cars. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV on Word, MotoManTV on Word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with a fun fact. So in this whole process of coming up to Skywalker Ranch and driving these two cars, I got to know the chief designer of the new LS, great guy, Suga-san, and I spent a lot of time talking to him. Of course, he looks like he's 4 years old, but he's been at Toyota for 30 years. And I asked him what other cars that he worked on, and the one you probably know the best is the total opposite of this car, the Toyota IQ. Until I see you next time, be später.